I'm such a bad hacker.
What do you call that stuff? Impact webbing.
Some of the most important characters to Spider-Man's mythos are hardly ever adapted. There's just so many Spider-Man characters and only so many Spider-Man adaptations. In today's video, we're going to talk about all the Spider-Man characters who deserve to be adapted more. Characters that are just so crucial to Spider-Man's story, yet whenever the story transitions out of comics, they usually get left behind for some reason. We're going to start with what I think is the craziest one of them all, Ben Reilly. Ben Reilly, otherwise known as the Scarlet Spider, has technically been adapted 3 different times. Technically. None of these are substantial in the slightest. He was in the 90s cartoon, he was in the Ultimate Spider-Man cartoon, and he's in Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, okay? In the 90s cartoon, he's one of a few Spider-Man in a Spider-Verse event. And it's the first ever Spider-Verse event, but like I said, it's a Spider-Verse event, so they don't have like a lot of screen time to flesh him out. In Ultimate Spider-Man, this is just not Ben Reilly. And then in Across the Spider-Verse, he barely has any screen time again. Let's jump into it a little bit more though, okay? Let's get into the real nitty-gritty. The first person to ever take over the Spider-Man mantle full-time from Peter was Ben Reilly. Ben has a plethora of stories and his own dynamics with lots of Peter's villains. The man deserves to get more adaptations. He's technically in the very first Spider-Verse event that happens in the 90s, and I'm pretty positive he's also the only one there not named Peter Parker as well. He helps the Peter Parker of the actual universe save the entire multiverse. This is like super sick. Man is also wearing quite possibly, in my opinion, the best alternate Spider-Man costume ever made. I just love the hoodie Scarlet Spider suit. I just love it, okay? 90s Ben Reilly, like I said, it wasn't a large adaptation. It wasn't a lot of substantial like screen time. But it's at least good. He's a good guy. He's got a fun story. He's still a clone. He might not even be the clone. We're not really sure.
Identity. I dyed my hair, changed my name to Ben Reilly. But I had no memory of where I really came from. Warren had robbed me of my past. I understand what you've been through.
It's very fun, but he doesn't get a lot of screen time. Good adaptation, just could have used more time, okay? Ben Reilly in Ultimate Spider-Man, though. This guy is straight up awful. Look at his costume. Look at how he acts. Why isn't his name Kane? Why? I want to know. Why give him everything about Kane and then name him Ben? Literally why? It makes no sense. It makes no goddamn sense. These showrunners are a bunch of stupid bitches. God, I hate them so much. Ultimate Spider-Man Ben Reilly is a travesty. So let's just move to Across the Spider-Verse, which is another awful adaptation of the character. He gets hardly any screen time at all, even though he's marketed as like one of the side characters of the movie. He gets maybe like 10 lines of dialogue, if that. He looks great though. Again, we get to see the hoodie season and the Ben Reilly hoodie season, so fire. I personally wish he was more fleshed out, but I recognize that this is a Spider-Verse event / movie. There really is just not enough screen time to go around. But I just think you shouldn't make him one of the main advertising points if you're not going to actually use him very much. Ben Reilly deserves so much love, man. Spider-Man's editorial literally hate his guts, and they screw this character over every chance they get. Adaptations should show Ben Reilly being awesome as much as they can, because it just doesn't happen in the comics anymore. Thank you to 90s Spider-Man, because it's really the only time it happened in an adaptation either.
Nice. What do you call that stuff? Impact webbing. Why didn't I think of that?
Next up, we got the Hobgoblin. Hobgoblin is probably my favorite character I'm going to talk about today. He is just so damn raw. To me, he just seems like a crazy-ass mercenary. He wants to get paid, and this crazy-ass motherfucker is gonna wild the fuck out if he doesn't get paid. He's got issues, for sure. A man with lots of demons, or should I say goblins, in his past. He almost always is drawn to be so scary. From his very first appearance, all the way to his most recent appearance in Miles Morales' Spider-Man, the character has always just looked horrifying, but badass. As a kid, I always loved him more than the Green Goblin. As an adult, I can only sit back and really marvel at the fact that I was really a visionary as a kid, because the Hobgoblin is so much better than the Green Goblin. It's not even close. Adaptation-wise, the Hobgoblin has one 10 out of 10 adaptation and one that is literally nothing like him. Okay, to be fair, neither of them have the Hobgoblin's real name. Ned Leeds. Psych. Zeb Wells, you suck. The real Hobgoblin is actually Roderick Kingsley, and neither of these guys are Roderick Kingsley. Actually, the only time Roderick Kingsley ever showed up in an adaptation that I know of is Spectacular Spider-Man, but he never actually dons the costume. He's got like one video game appearance from a Sega game in 1991. I'm not going to count it. So we're just going to look at these two, okay? Just these two. We're just going to talk about these two. The two that actually put on the costume and got fleshed out. Okay, so we got Jason Masondale and Harry Osborn. Harry Osborn's Goblin is like cool, I guess, but it's not the Hobgoblin. For starters, he's a good guy. That's not Hobgoblin. Not at all. He would never do that. He's way too tech-based as well. I do not like how this guy is like so like machinery-based. Doesn't really strike fear in me at all. It just seems like he's this like, I don't know, tech man. Iron Man in orange. He doesn't feel like a mercenary either. Yeah, this isn't Hobgoblin by any means. I'm not flaming Harry, just the Hobgoblin, okay? Harry's Hobgoblin in Spider-Man 2017, just not that good, okay? Jason Masondale. I don't know who you are, but man, they did a phenomenal job with you. This adaptation of the Hobgoblin is a 10 out of 10, other than the fact that it's not Roderick Kingsley. When he has the mask on, he acts exactly like I think the Hobgoblin should act. The laugh, the thievery, the schemes. Man wants to be paid. He's voiced by Mark Hamill, the legend. Like, come on, how could you not fall in love with this character the moment you started watching this show? I cannot believe we don't get more adaptations of the Hobgoblin like this, or just in general. The Hobgoblin rocks.
Greetings. Your computer's data has just been deleted by Hobgoblin computer finders. Oh, I'm such a bad hacker. Bad.
Next, we're going to talk about Spot, okay? Spot appears in the 90s, the 2017 cartoon, and Across the Spider-Verse. And he's kind of always been an underrated Spider-Man villain. I can literally remember as a kid watching him in the 90s cartoon and just being so confused as to how you can stop him. He can jump from dimension to dimension. If a serious crook got these powers, he would literally be uncatchable. Come on, I know Spider-Man's a genius, but he just would be uncatchable. There's no way you could stop him. Thankfully for New York, Dr. Ohm is kind of like a goofball scientist. He's not really serious at all. His superpower is literally so broken, but he's so flippant and like just unconfident as a person. He really doesn't get the full usage of the powers. When the Spot has his spots, he's like a much more happier and gleeful character, but he's still goofy as hell. He's just not like very serious, and this is fine. Not every character needs to be a super serious nemesis. In the 2017 Spider-Man cartoon, Spot makes an appearance, but he hardly even talks. He really just shows up, uses his power to create spots and dimensions, and then he loses to Spider-Girl on her very first fight ever. Man took an L to somebody who was a rookie, green, somebody who had no idea what she was pretty much doing out there, and Spot lost to them. With the power to hop through dimensions, you would think that the character would at least get something to show off how powerful and broken he could be, right? The Spot could be a world-ending villain. Enter Across the Spider-Verse. This movie completely changed this character's perception and literally how he is even written to this day. The Spot is written pretty similarly to how he's adapted in the 90s cartoon. It's pretty spot on.
Oh, brother, this guy stinks!
But the character has never really been too popular. He had a few comic appearances and like the 90s appearance, so yeah. But he definitely needed a new fresh paint. Nobody really was like, I'm a big Spot fan after seeing him in any of this stuff. So he needed a fresh can of paint. He needed like a once-over. And it did wonders for the character. The Spot is now so much scarier. He still starts off goofy in Across the Spider-Verse, but his goofball attitude slowly fades and changes. He just can't take it anymore. He can't contain it. So the Spot goes on a search to become more powerful and finally to be taken seriously. It's such an incredible way to take the character. Make the laughingstock character sick of being a laughingstock. It feels kind of meta too in a good way. I roasted him like, damn, this guy sucks if he can't win with these powers. And it's like the Spot heard me talking about him. Oh, you was talking shit? Say less, fam. And now he's going to be way more of a threat as well in the comics. The movie changed everything. This character for many isn't even seen as a Peter Parker villain now. He's either just like a Spider-Man villain to the Spider-Man mantle, or is associated with Miles. He's never really had anything notable with Peter anyways. Across the Spider-Verse turned a C-tier villain into an A-tier villain. Masterfully done, guys.
Excuse me. Hi. Sorry to bug you. I know you're busy. Sorry.
What do you want?
I know it's weird. I just came out of nowhere, but I think I'm becoming a trans-dimensional super being.
So?
Silk. Silk has 0 adaptations. That's right, none. She's appeared in 2 things as Cindy Moon, but she never dons a suit, so I'm not really willing to call it Silk, but let's just talk about those a little bit. Cindy Moon appears in the after credit scene for Spider-Man 2 and in Homecoming. The after credit scene for Spider-Man 2 is kind of just like a lead up to Spider-Man 3. I'm very confident she'll be Silk in Spider-Man 3. I don't see the point in introducing her if she's not going to be Silk in Spider-Man 3, but Spider-Man 3 isn't going to come out for at least 4 to 5 years. Let's be real. Then we have Cindy Moon in Homecoming, and it's pretty cool. It's just like a cameo. She doesn't really do much. She's just there. Can't imagine Disney doing anything with her either because she actually has a TV show coming out being produced by Sony. It should be on Amazon. Lord knows if it's actually going to come out. El Muerte or whatever didn't come out. So stay tuned. But a character like Silk / Cindy Moon deserves to be adapted. Cindy Moon had a 30-plus issue ongoing, multiple minis, as well as been around for over a decade. The character should be adapted, and adapted well. Prowler. I'm talking about the original Prowler, okay? We're talking Hobie Brown, okay? Hobie Brown. Aaron Davis was fire in the Spider-Verse, but we're talking Hobie Brown's Prowler, okay? Do you know how long this guy's been a character? He first appeared in 1969. It's a long fucking time. But how often do you see him? Never. He's in the 90s cartoon, the 2017 cartoon, and like I said, Aaron Davis dons the mantle a little bit in the Spider-Verse and stuff, but we're only talking about Hobie, okay? Hobie is the OG, the original, the first man to don this gorgeous suit, and nowadays he's treated as an afterthought. More people remember him for being Spider-Punk than even being the Prowler. It's such a shame when you think about it because he has a great arc in the comics and in the shows he's in. He was more of an adversary than a flat-out villain, and then he turns into like an anti-hero / retired villain. But yeah, the character is one of the few characters who started early as a Spider-Man villain, grew up, and then just grew out of being a villain, just became a good guy. And this was early, too. This was like way before they were turning every character into a redeemable character. This is super early. In my opinion, it's really cool to see a character actually have an end to their story without them dying, you know? To me, it's why it's so odd I'd never get to see him adapted. It's such a unique character. You could actually have him start as a villain, turn into an upstanding citizen, and he just becomes a member of society. Many of Spider-Man's earliest stories have been adapted, and Hobie never really seems to make the cut. In the 90s show and Hobie in the 2017 Spider-Man show, they both do a great job portraying him as like a small-time crook who really just wants to do good. Both of the animated portrayals of him are pretty fire in my opinion. The 90s is only one episode and 2017 spans a couple of episodes, but like they both do a great job of showing him as like a small-time villain or crook, and he wants to be a good guy, and he kind of just takes down the mantle or puts off the mantle. He doesn't want to do it anymore. Hobie Brown also appears in Spectacular Spider-Man as well, but he also never dons the suit. Much like the Hobgoblin, he never really wears the Prowler moniker. He's just the quiet kid who usually is seen backing up Flash Thompson and giving banger play performances. I'm going to just reiterate really quickly, this is a Hobie Brown thing. This is not a Aaron Davis Prowler thing. Aaron Davis as a Prowler is fire. He's awesome, but he's been adapted enough in my opinion. Miles has only been around a short time, and pretty much everything Miles gets adapted to, the Prowler follows suit, and none of Miles' other villains do. I would love for one of these villains to finally show up in an adaptation. I'm begging. Last but not least, Vermin has one appearance, one adaptation. It's the Amazing Spider-Man game. This character is not known by many. He's never really been adapted in anything. Like I said, he only appears in one game, and that's it. We have like a Lady Vermin, or should I say Herman, in Spider-Man Unlimited, but it isn't Vermin. Come on. If you don't read comics, I know what you're thinking. Why bring up some Z-lister villain who's only appeared in like one game and no one's really played? Well, it's because Vermin's pretty crucial to Spider-Man's mythos if we're going to talk about the greatest Spider-Man stories ever written. If you ask people who read comics, what are the best Spider-Man comics, the most common answer you're going to hear is Kraven's Last Hunt. Like, unquestionably, people love this story, and Vermin's a very big part of it. Vermin is like an obstacle for Kraven to overcome. He's an obstacle for Spider-Man to overcome. He's on the loose. He's killing people. Vermin is a huge part of Kraven's Last Hunt. But Kraven's Last Hunt has never actually been adapted, so Vermin's never been adapted. But in Kraven's Last Hunt, the character's really just being used. He's like a pawn of Kraven. He kind of doesn't really get a lot of characterization. He's kind of just there for both of them to fight. Spider-Man and Kraven have to pass him. You know, they have to. He's like a bar they have to clear. Which brings us to the next story many people will say is the second best Spider-Man story ever written, The Child Within. Now, this story is a famous story between Harry Osborn's Green Goblin versus Spider-Man. The story, another 10 out of 10 story, again features Vermin. This time around, Vermin's like a real character. He actually gets fleshed out. We meet his family. We see his pain. We see his trauma and where it all comes from. Why he is the way he is. It's actually incredibly well written, but just super depressing. Damn. Spider-Man stories really like, had you in a way back in the day, man. You just was like feeling empty inside, but also like that was fire. Nothing like today where Spider-Man is just a freaking bum. Vermin appears in not one but two stories Spider-Man fans would consider top 5. Many would even consider these two to be the two best. Yet he's only ever appeared in one movie game? Does this make sense to anyone? Not saying Vermin should be more popular. I mean, he's literally an overgrown rat. But to never show up in a Spider-Man cartoon? None of them? Now that's just freaking weird. The character deserves an adaptation. Bring back godlike Hobgoblin. Dunk out. Peace!